Graphics in video games are fake. This forest isn't real. Those shadows aren't real. That city in the distance, that's also fake. Graphics in video games are literally one giant illusion to fool you, the player, into thinking it's real. The first trick that game developers use to fool you is with a technique called billboards. You've probably heard about this trick, or at the very least seen it when the illusion breaks. Billboarding is what video games use to make a flat 2D image seem like it's an actual 3D object. Making a billboard is easy. You literally just steal an image off of Google, add the image into your 3D scene, and then write a script to make the image always face the camera. The trick won't work if the image is too close to the player, because you can easily tell the difference between this and a 3D model. But for faraway scenes and objects like forests, mountains, grass, and other things, the illusion works. Billboards are great because they are super performant to use. Instead of loading a whole 3D object with millions of vertices, which can take up a lot of space in your computer's memory, the game only has to load a 2D texture. That means your grandma's dusty old computer isn't going to be struggling to load a scene, and might even hit 30 frames per second. Skyboxes. Skyboxes are the second trick game developers use to make the worlds. Think of it like this. I know this might be hard for some of you, but try stepping outside and do a 360. Everything that you see in the background, like mountains, clouds, streets, roads, hills, trees, grass, bushes, they all move when you move. They're all objects that you can interact with if you were closer to them. In video games, you create environments by placing 3D objects. But a skybox fakes this by using a flat image instead of a 3D object. Instead of having separate objects for the background, a skybox is just a huge panoramic image that stays in place when you move or look around in the game. That way it looks like a background but doesn't actually move. In Unity, you can drag and drop different skyboxes into your game and test how they look in the actual scene. And there are also a bunch of different websites where you can get skyboxes for free. In most video games, they use skyboxes for things that you see in the background but don't actually get close enough to interact with, like cities, mountains, clouds, and more. Another reason games use skyboxes is, like with billboards, to increase your performance. Why would a game waste time rendering separate 3D objects for each item in the background that you're not even going to be close enough to see when you can just render a single image? Think about how much your FPS would increase. Lighting. Lighting is one of the most obvious techniques in video games that developers use to craft the world. Lighting is what brings video games from darkness to light. That sounds so corny. And it's very important that we use it in ways that makes the game seem appealing. You would think most modern games are calculating millions of realistic light rays every frame, but they're actually cheating 90% of the time. You probably know about raycasting, or at least a little bit familiar with it. This is when games calculate realistic lighting in real time. But actually simulating realistic lighting is insanely hard for computers. If you have a complex scene, imagine how long it would take to calculate millions of light rays bouncing off of each light surface, every shadow updating to match each object that moves, color bouncing off of the surfaces, and so much more. So game developers came up with a trick, like they always do. They're little magicians, those little trashy creatures. Instead of having real-time lighting, many games calculate it before you even launch the game. Now, the game isn't wasting valuable resources on real-time lighting for no reason. The shadows just look the same as real-time lighting, but they're literally painted onto the world with no performance loss. The only bad thing about baked lighting is that it's static. That means if you were to bake an object into the scene and move the object, the shadows and the lighting are going to stay the same. So the shadows are going to stay there while the object moves. It's going to look really weird. Fog. You probably think fog exists in video games to make the world look gloomy and cinematic, but sometimes it's there literally because the game can't render enough. Games can't render an infinite distance. That's why some games have a render distance that you can change depending on how fast your computer is. The more objects the game has to render, the slower it's gonna be. And you might start lagging because every game has its limits. So, instead of rendering a lot of objects, the developers hide them behind fog. In the game Silent Hill, you can see the developers really take on that approach by turning the fog up really high, so much that you can barely see in front of you. But it doesn't even look bad, it matches the mood of the game because it's horror. I've never played Silent Hill, but if you want to support my Silent Hill fun, check out my coding course and my coding book that goes right along with it. This coding book teaches you everything you need to know to go from beginner to advanced game developer. you'll make 5 games and you'll have your own portfolio to start going on to engines like Unity, Unreal Engine, Godot, and more. Anyways, back to the video. If the game didn't have fog, you'd see the trees start to pop in, the terrain could... the pollen, bro. I'm outside recording up. Anyways, the fog doesn't hide the distance. It hides the fact that the game is cheating distance. Level design tricks. Games are constantly controlling where you look, and that's where the 5th trick comes in. The player thinks that they're exploring an open world game freely, but in reality, the developer is constantly manipulating where you look, where you walk, and where you pay attention. Video games guide the players unconsciously through light, color, movements, pathway, and framing. It doesn't even have to be obvious. In Mirror's Edge, you can easily see where you need to go by the contrasting colors, making it obvious you need to go in this direction. Your eyes are naturally drawn to bright things. So developers will brighten up exits, light up objectives, make them glow, and highlight the way you need to go. And a good level designer will do all of these things and make it seem natural and invisible to the player. So those are 5 tricks, but there's actually many more. Game developers, really, I applaud you. So I'm applauding myself basically. If you're interested in watching another video in this series, you can check out this link right here. Be sure to also support my Scratch coding course for beginners, as well as my newly published coding book, which you can check out right here. Thanks so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Hopefully, please subscribe, please like the video, and comment. I need that, please.